Inside one of the most secure banks in the world, fake money was found. No break-in, no outsider. The money never left the vault. One note failed, then another, then the entire batch. The vault was sealed. The logs were clean. Nothing was missing, except the truth. These weren't bad fakes. They were perfect. So perfect, the bank itself couldn't detect them.
OVI was referred the same day. Nora Cross, pattern observer, arrived at that branch in Geneva. She is a quiet kind of investigator. No noise, no rush, just observation. Branch manager Stefan Holtz received her. He was 54 years old, hair properly set. His hands were slightly shaking. Holtz explained that the audit started at 9 a.m. At 9:17, the machine gave a red light for the first time. They thought the machine was faulty. Then they brought another machine. Same result. Nora listened. She asked nothing, just watched. Holtz's eyes didn't meet hers directly, but that alone wasn't enough. Many people hesitate to make eye contact with investigators. Nora entered the vault antechamber. She stopped there, looked across the entire room, left to right, a systematic sweep. No hurry. The room was small. One door to the outside, one door to the vault. A counter on one side, CCTV in a corner. Entry and exit, only one path. To enter the vault, two things were required: biometric scan and manual key, held by different people, must be used together. The access log contained data from the last 3 months. Nora folded it and placed it in her folder. Not now, later. She entered the vault. The drawers were numbered, in sequence. She walked to the affected drawer, drawer number 7C. The seal was broken, but cleanly, as if someone had cut it carefully. No force. The other drawers were intact, only 7C, targeted, specific. Someone knew exactly where to go. In the security room, she reviewed CCTV footage, 3 months of it. She specifically requested the last 30 days, only the vault antechamber. Every entry was in pairs, as per protocol. No single entry, no unauthorized access. Everything was theoretically correct. One session stood out, 40 minutes. Normal sessions were 10 to 15 minutes. This one was longer. Names Thomas Reiter and Klaus Mauer. Nora wrote nothing. She just watched, then moved on. The bank had 3 people in the currency verification team. Reiter was one of them. Mauer was a transport coordinator. He only received vault access under special circumstances. Both had clean backgrounds, no records, no complaints, years of service. That was the result of the first day. The system appeared perfect. No obvious entry, no obvious culprit. Just a 40-minute window that was slightly longer than it should have been.
Second day morning. The fake notes were in the forensic lab. Nora arrived there. Lab technician Martin Vogel explained the notes to her. The notes had everything: watermark, security thread, microprint, UV pattern. These weren't made with a simple printer. They were made by someone who understood the manufacturing process of real notes. Vogel explained that only one specific test detected them: magnetic resonance frequency test. This wasn't standard procedure. It was an advanced test used only in specialized labs. Nora asked, "Who requested this test?" Vogel said, "A specific request came from the bank 1 day earlier, before the audit." Reiter requested this test 1 day before the audit, before the notes were detected. This was unusual. A senior verifier requesting an advanced test a day earlier without any visible reason. But for now, it was only an observation. It could mean anything. The paper of the notes was cotton-based, like real euro notes. This isn't publicly available. That meant there was a supplier, a source. The serial numbers were sequential, but from the wrong series for this batch. That meant the real notes that should have been there under this series must be recorded somewhere else. There had to be a paper trail. Vogel checked the ECB database. The real notes from this serial range had been issued 2 years ago to another country's central bank, Finland. Those notes were retired, out of circulation, but someone copied those serial numbers and printed them onto new fake notes. Someone specifically chose retired numbers. This wasn't random. Now there were 2 things. First, the notes were too perfect to be made without insider knowledge. Second, the serial numbers came from a retired series, meaning access to ECB database. These notes were made in some printing facility, industrial level, not at home. But the main question was still the same. How did they reach the vault? There were 500 notes in the drawer, 50,000 euros. The real notes that should have been there were somewhere else, with someone. Nora wrote, 1. When were the notes switched? 2. When was the 40-minute session? 3. Why did Reiter request the test? 4. What was Maurer doing in the vault? She underlined the 40-minute window. She remembered the exact date of that session, 3 weeks earlier, before this audit. She opened the access log, the 40-minute session 14 days ago. What happened in this branch 14 days ago? She wanted to check Holtz's office records. 14 days ago, Holtz checked the calendar. That day, a special audit, an external auditor had visited. Some staff were off, reduced team. 3 people were absent. That day in the vault antechamber, only Reiter and Maurer were on shift. Others were busy with the external auditor. Now the picture was getting clearer. That day, 14 days ago, when others were occupied outside, Reiter and Maurer were in the vault for 40 minutes. But was this coincidence or a plan? In the corridor, Nora saw Reiter. Nora looked at him. Reiter looked at her. Neither spoke, but his gaze held for a second longer. Then he walked away.
3rd day. Nora scheduled separate conversations with all 3 members of the verification team. First, Thomas Reiter. Reiter confirmed his routine. Every step, every procedure, everything was correct. When Nora mentioned the 40-minute session, Reiter said they were doing inventory reconciliation. Normal process. But there was one thing. Reiter's hands were completely still. People usually move slightly. Reiter did not move at all, as if he had deliberately controlled his body language. Nora asked further, what was the work with Maurer that day? Reiter said Maurer was verifying transport records. Routine. He himself had requested to bring Maurer along. The answer was smooth, too smooth. No gap, no hesitation, as if it was already prepared. Second, Klaus Maurer. He was faster. His eyes moved more. His hands shifted, sometimes on the table, sometimes to the side. Maurer described that day. He said Reiter had called him in the morning to come to the vault. He assumed it was routine. He went, nothing unusual. Nora asked, what time was the call? Maurer thought, around 8 in the morning. Reiter's shift started at 9. He called 1 hour earlier. Maurer did not realize how important that detail was. Reiter had planned it 1 hour earlier, pre-arranged, not spontaneous. Nora thanked him. Maurer left. Now there was a small crack in Reiter's statement. He had said Maurer came along normally. Maurer said he was called. That was a difference. Third, Lena Brown, junior verifier. That day, she was with the external auditor, away from the vault. She saw nothing inside. But Lena mentioned one small thing. That afternoon, she saw a small notepad on Reiter's desk. He had written something, numbers, in columns. She didn't think anything of it. Nora asked, is that notepad still there? Lena thought, maybe, in Reiter's drawer. With official permission, Reiter's desk was opened. The notepad was found. Numbers, columns, no context. One column of numbers partially matched the serial range of the fake notes, not fully, but enough. This was the first physical link, still incomplete, but the first concrete connection between Ryder and the fake notes. In the corridor, Nora crossed Ryder again. This time, he saw the evidence bag. He paused for a second, then walked away. That second mattered. By evening, Nora received an update. There were inconsistencies in Ryder's financial records. In 3 months, 2 unusually large cash deposits, unreported sources.
Fourth day, Nora laid everything out on the table, like pieces of a puzzle, from different places but forming one picture. Everything pointed toward Ryder. Notepad, his. Test request, his. 40-minute session, his planning. Financial deposits, his. Now the picture looked clear. Ryder had fake notes made, brought Maurer along, maybe as a witness or for extra hands, opened drawer 7C during the 40-minute window, and switched the notes. But Nora was thinking something else. One thing felt slightly off: the test request. Ryder had requested this test 1 day earlier, so was he exposing himself? She sat down, started cross-referencing dates: test request date, session date, deposits date, 3 different points. Deposits came first, session came after, test request came last. The sequence was unusual. If Ryder was planning, why was he paid before? One scenario: Ryder was the mastermind, arranged notes, switched them, took money. Second scenario: Ryder was paid to do something, but what exactly? External confirmation. Local police confirmed deposits in Ryder's records were cash, untraceable, but specific amounts: 8,000 and 12,000 euros, 2 transactions. 20,000 euros. Someone paid Ryder 20,000, but the real notes were worth 50,000, so Ryder wasn't the seller, he was a tool. Someone else existed. Now Nora shifted toward Maurer. He was the transport coordinator. He would be needed if notes were brought inside. Maurer's transport records were completely clean. No extra entries, no unauthorized movement. He was just there, in the vault, because Ryder called him. Character check. Nora looked at Maurer's photo. 39 years old, 7 years in the bank, no major financial stress, no criminal history. He was probably just there without knowing. Returned to the bank. Ryder was not at his desk. He was at lunch. Nora waited, standing near his desk, observing the room. Human detail. On Ryder's desk, there was a small framed photo, a young woman, maybe sister or daughter. Nora looked at it, then moved on. Interaction. Ryder returned, saw Nora, paused for a moment, then sat normally. Nora asked, "Who is in the photo?" Ryder said, "My daughter." Nora thanked him and left. A small moment, but for the first time, Ryder's expression had genuinely shifted. Background link. That night, Nora checked his background, family section. 1 daughter, 22 years old, medical school, private, expensive. Fees and salary gap, every year. Ryder should have had savings or another source, and those deposits. Now it was becoming a financial story. But still, one question remained. Ryder worked for someone. He wasn't the designer, he was just the door opener. Someone else was making notes, knew serial numbers, and used Ryder. Then again, the test request, the same question. Ryder himself requested the test that caught the notes. No criminal does that, requests a test that exposes his own crime. Something didn't match. There was something in that test request, something Nora still couldn't see, but it was there. 2 in the night, Nora stood there. Ryder's case looked strong. Motive, access, physical link. But something wasn't right. And when something isn't right, she doesn't conclude. She stops. Day 5. Nora returned to the forensic lab. She placed the notepad numbers in front of Vogel. One direct question: did these numbers precisely match the fake note serial range? Vogel compared them side by side. There was a partial match, but the specific numbers printed on the fake notes were not in the notepad. They were entirely different numbers.
No direct link could be established between the notepad and the fake notes. Nora asked steadily, "Then what were these numbers?" Vogel shook his head. "Unknown. Possibly verification codes, possibly a record of some other process. The notepad had no provable connection to the fake currency." The financial deposits were checked deeper by police. One deposit appeared 2 days before Ryder's daughter's tuition payment. It didn't look like coincidence, but the source couldn't be traced. Any family member could have given a loan. The officer was direct. They couldn't make an arrest on this. Insufficient direct evidence. Everything was circumstantial. There was no physical proof linking Ryder to the manufacturing of the notes or to any deal with an outside party. Nora nodded. She didn't argue. She left the station. She already knew what she had was a convincing pattern, not proof. One link in the chain was still missing. Walking outside along the Geneva Canal, Nora began to think, what was the thing she still hadn't seen? Every statement, every record, but something had been missed. She stopped walking, looked down. Something surfaced in her memory, the test request. She returned to it again. Ryder himself had requested the test, the very test that exposed the notes. For a criminal, that made no logical sense, unless the test request wasn't about exposing the notes, unless it was about drawing attention away from something else entirely. The test was a cover. She turned and walked back toward the bank. She went straight to the security desk and asked for one specific thing, the complete test request history. All requests, the entire past year. The printout showed multiple requests, most from Ryder. Dates spread across the year, but he had requested this advanced test 3 times before, each time roughly 3 months apart, a regular pattern. What had happened on each of those 3 dates? Nora cross-referenced those 3 dates with the vault access logs. On all 3, there had been a separate vault session as well. Not drawer 7C, different drawers, but the pattern was identical. Longer sessions, reduced staff days. Clarity was forming. Not the final answer yet, but the direction was real now. This wasn't the first time. This was a systematic operation running on a 3-month cycle. Each time, Ryder requested a test, drawing attention to fake notes in one location, while real notes had already been removed from a different drawer. Nora pulled older audit files from the previous 3 quarters. Had fake notes been found there too? In 2 out of 3, minor discrepancies had been noted, small ones, flagged and filed under acceptable range, ignored. But now those discrepancies existed in an entirely different context. Acceptable range. No one had thought those variances could be deliberate. No one had looked for a pattern. That was why the operation had continued for a full 3 quarters without being caught. Nora sat back. A full year of operation was now visible, but Ryder wasn't working alone. Someone manufactured the notes. Someone moved the real notes out. Someone directed Ryder. Who was that person?
That night, Nora pinned a large sheet of paper to the wall. The entire timeline had to be reconstructed, step by step, from the manufacturing point all the way to the vault. First node, manufacturing. The notes were made somewhere, an industrial facility. Cotton paper, security features, UV reactive ink. None of this was possible at home. Second node, transport. How did they reach Geneva? Switzerland has strict border controls. The notes would have to arrive inside some legitimate cover. Maurer, transport coordinator. He handled the bank's legitimate incoming currency shipments. If the notes were placed inside one of those shipments. 2 weeks ago, an incoming shipment had arrived from Frankfurt. Scheduled, legitimate, Maurer had personally received it, standard protocol. The weight log showed a 0.3 kilogram difference, marked as scale variance, but the weight of 500 fake notes is roughly 0.3 kilograms. This was the entry point. The notes came in through the Frankfurt shipment. But did Maurer know? Or had he simply logged the weight and moved on? Third node, extracting the notes from the shipment and placing them in the drawer. Who did that? Maurer received the shipment. Ryder handled verification. They worked together. Fourth node, the 40-minute vault session. That was where the switch happened. Ryder and Maurer in the vault, the rest of the staff outside. Maurer brings the shipment in. Ryder opens drawer 7C. The switch is made. The real notes, 50,000 euros. They went somewhere. Maurer handled transport. He could move things out, too. In the next shipment? Some other way? In the outgoing records, there was one entry, damaged currency, returned to ECB. 3 days after the vault session, Maurer responsible. But the weight of that outgoing envelope was slightly higher than expected. Another weight discrepancy, again marked as acceptable. The real notes had been hidden inside the outgoing shipment. They never reached the ECB. Someone intercepted them along the way. The timeline was almost complete. But Frankfurt, where did those notes come from originally? Someone in Frankfurt or along the route was manufacturing them and placing them into the shipments. The Frankfurt shipment had been handled by a third-party logistics company, Alpenweg Transport, registered, licensed, clean record. The company's director was Werner Haas. Nora searched his name. No criminal record, but one interesting detail. 18 years ago, he had worked at the European Central Bank in the currency printing division. That was it. Haas had been inside the ECB. He carried insider knowledge of currency manufacturing. He built a company as a logistics cover. He formed a network with Ryder and Maurer. He manufactured the notes, placed them in shipments, received the real notes coming back out. Restructuring. Haas had been let go from his job 18 years ago. But the knowledge stayed, and perhaps something else did too. Resentment. That was the motive. Not just greed, a mix of both. Now the full chain was visible on the timeline. Haas, manufacturing and planning; Maurer, transport in and out; Ryder, vault access and the switch. 3 people, 1 operation. But the test request was still sitting there. Why had Ryder requested that specific test, the very test that caught the notes? Haas had expert knowledge. He knew exactly which test could expose a fake note. So why did Ryder request it? Nora sat down. The room was quiet. She kept thinking. The test request, 1 day before the audit. Someone must have told Ryder to make that request, or Ryder had done it himself. But why? One possibility began to form. Did Ryder want out of the operation? Had he deliberately filed that test request so the notes would get caught, so he could be free from all of it? His daughter's fees, the pressure, the guilt. If Ryder wanted out, then he was also a victim of this operation, used and now trapped. The test request was an exit strategy, deliberately getting the notes caught, but exposing himself in the process. There was no other way out. But this was still a theory. It needed to be verified. She had to speak to Ryder directly, not under the pretense of another question, but directly. Day 6, morning. Nora called Ryder into the conference room. No files this time, no notepad, no official documents. She sat down. Silence. Ryder waited. Nora said nothing, just looked at him. 2 minutes. Ryder broke the silence. "I know what you're thinking." Nora didn't respond. Ryder continued. "I filed that test request. I knew exactly what that test would catch." Nora stayed still. She listened. She didn't interrupt. Ryder kept talking.
Those notes were caught deliberately. I knew the operation had to end. I needed a way out. That was my way. He was telling the truth. She could tell. A man who had gone deep and had opened the door himself in a strange, self-destructive way. The motive started with greed, his daughter's fees, then guilt, then this.
After Ryder's confession, Nora took a systematic approach. She asked him about the full chain, step by step. He was listening now. He was ready to talk. Ryder explained, 3 years ago, Haas had made first contact, at a social event, casual conversation. Then a second meeting, then the proposal. Just vault access. He would handle everything else. Fees, his daughter, private medical school. Ryder felt he had no options, or at least it felt that way. The first time he had told himself it was just once, then a second time, then it became routine. Mauer. Ryder said Haas had recruited Mauer directly. Ryder didn't know whether Mauer had been involved from the beginning or brought in later, but Mauer handled the transport side. Those details were never shared with Ryder. Compartmentalization. Haas had told each person only what they needed to know. Ryder was kept within the vault, Mauer within transport. Nobody held the full picture, only Haas. How was contact made with Haas? Ryder explained there was a specific email account, temporary, a new one each time. Messages were encrypted. Haas's actual phone number or address never reached Ryder. Only one Frankfurt address existed, the delivery point, the Alpenwag transport office. But that was a real registered office. Haas would be there, or nearby. Nora ended the meeting. Ryder knew what was coming. He made no argument. He looked in a strange way, almost relieved. Nora walked straight to Mauer's workstation. Mauer looked up when he saw her. His expression was curious, but there was a small trace of fear in it too. In the small office with the door closed, Nora asked Mauer about the Frankfurt shipment, specifically the weight discrepancy. Mauer's first response was that scale variance is normal. 3 times. Nora laid out all 3 instances one by one. Mauer's breathing shifted slightly. Mauer said nothing for a moment, 2 minutes. Then, I was told this was just an alternate route for real notes. No harm, just reallocation.
Who told him? Mauer said, Haas. Werner Haas contacted him directly 2 years ago. Mauer said he genuinely believed it was legal, some internal program. He had noticed the weight discrepancy and ignored it because Haas had told him it was normal. Mauer was possibly telling the truth, or not, but he had been convinced, or had let himself be convinced, that it was legitimate. His level of culpability would be decided by the local authorities. That wasn't Nora's job. Her job was to seal the mechanism, and the mechanism was now sealed. Back in the workspace, the full chain written out: Haas, Mauer, Ryder, vault, switch, outgoing shipment, real notes out, a complete loop, running for a full year. 3 quarters, estimated total stolen, 180,000 euros in real notes, now with Haas, somewhere. Tracking that was the joint work of local authorities and the ECB.
One more thing still needed to be verified. Ryder's hands. That unusual stillness in the first interview, she had noted it then, but hadn't understood it yet.
In the first interview, his hands had not moved at all. Nora had noted it at the time, but the meaning hadn't landed yet. Now it did. Ryder had deliberately controlled his body language because he knew that body language matters in lie detection. He had prepared himself. But when his daughter came up, the hands moved, the control broke. That was a real moment. That behavioral slip, the photo of his daughter, the hands moving, that was what had been planted early, and now it made complete sense in context.
She wrote, "Behavioral slip, confirmed." His daughter was the real root of everything.
Now, Nora put together her full report. Chain, evidence, timeline, mechanism, everything documented, to be forwarded to local police and the ECB. The report cover read, OVI case file, Geneva branch. Referring authorities, Swiss Federal Police, ECB. OVI's job was exactly this, to assist. OVI doesn't make arrests. OVI doesn't give chase.
OVI documents. OVI hands over evidence. The rest belongs to local authorities. The report was handed to the Swiss Federal Police. An Interpol coordination request for Frankfurt was included. Reaching Haas was now their work. Nora stepped outside. The streets of Geneva were normal, people moving through their own lives. No one knew what had been happening inside their central bank's vault for the past year.
Back in the workspace, night. Nora reconstructed the entire story one more time from the culprit's perspective, beginning to end. Werner Haas, pushed out of the ECB 18 years ago, restructuring. He knew how notes were made, everything. Ink, paper, watermark, security thread, UV pattern, all of it. That knowledge left with him. Over the years, Haas built his logistics company, legitimate, clean. But in secret, there was also a facility where he manufactured the notes, perfect, undetectable by standard machines. He chose his target, the Geneva branch. Someone may have helped him identify a person in Geneva, or he researched it himself. He found Reiter, senior verifier, financial pressure, daughter's fees, a perfect target. The first contact was social, friendly, no pressure, just an introduction. Then slowly, trust. Then the proposal. Just vault access, just once. Maurer was kept separate. Haas recruited him from the transport angle, a different approach, a different story. Maurer believed he was helping with some kind of internal bank program, or at least that's what he chose to believe. The first operation, Haas hid the fake notes inside a legitimate Frankfurt shipment. The 0.3 kilogram weight difference was buried under scale variance. Maurer received it, the notes came in. On a reduced staff day, the day of the external auditor's visit, Reiter called Maurer at 8 in the morning. It had been planned. Both went into the vault, 40 minutes. Drawer 7C opened, fake notes in, real notes into Maurer's transport bag. 3 days later, damaged currency return. Maurer handled an outgoing shipment in the ECB's name. The real notes were inside it. They traveled to Frankfurt, to Haas. Operation complete. This happened 3 times across 3 quarters. Each time the same pattern. Reduced staff day, incoming shipment, 40-minute vault session, outgoing damaged currency. Each time different drawers were used, rotated, so no single location would draw attention. But something was building inside Reiter. After the first quarter, after the second. His daughter's fees were being paid, but sleep wasn't coming. He wanted out. He couldn't confront Haas directly, too dangerous, so a plan formed. Reiter requested that specific magnetic resonance test 1 day before the audit. He knew what that test would catch. He knew the notes would be exposed this time. It was his deliberate exit strategy, one that exposed him along with everything else. The notes were caught. The investigation began. OVI arrived. Reiter waited. He knew an investigator would come, and if she did her work, everything would unravel. The mechanism was fully sealed. Entry, Frankfurt shipment, 0.3 kilograms extra, notes in. Switch, 40-minute vault session. Drawer opened, exchange made. Exit, outgoing damaged currency shipment. Real notes out to Frankfurt.